Hello, welcome to Alpengeist Fan 08. Today, I'll be ranking every coaster at Cedar Point. I rode 16 of the 17 coasters at Cedar Point. The only coaster I didn't ride was Wilderness Run, the park's Intamin kiddie coaster, because I was too tall to ride it. In order to ride it, you have to ride with another kid, so I just decided to skip it. I was able to ride everything else though. Before we start the list, I'd like to give several shoutouts. The shoutouts are to Capital Coasters, Coaster Craziness, Coaster Fusion, and Dutch Gahalot. Now, let's dive into the review. At the number 16 spot, we have Woodstock Express, the park's Vekoma kiddie coaster. This is just your average kiddie coaster. While I prefer it to Coco Cruiser Hershey Park, I prefer the wooden Woodstock Expresses to this coaster. But yeah, not much to say about this coaster. At the number 15 spot, we have another kiddie coaster, Valor, the park's B&M dive coaster. I've already done a full review on this sorry excuse for a thrill coaster. I had much more fun making that review than actually riding the coaster. I won't bash this coaster anymore in this review because I've already bashed it before, but yeah, Riffin' at Busch Gardens Williamsburg is better in every single way possible besides the stats. At the number 14 spot, we have Gatekeeper, the park's B&M wing coaster. Remember everything I said about Valor? You can also say all that about this boring, forceless B&M wing coaster. This ride has a pretty dumb layout as well. This ride is definitely better than Valor because it has two very cool head chopper moments, but yeah, I would recommend this as a kid's first inverting coaster just because it isn't thrilling or intense. At the number 13 spot, we have Cedar Creek Mine Ride, the park's Aerodynamics mine train. I like these Aero mine trains. I've ridden 3 of them. This is my second favorite just under Adventure Express at Kings Island. This ride is quite fun. It's a long ride and I like how it goes over the water. It's a scenic ride. Plus, it isn't very rough. Overall, this is a fun coaster that everyone in the family will enjoy. At the number 12 spot, we have Corkscrew, the park's Aerodynamics looping coaster. Many consider this to be the worst coaster at the park. I strongly disagree. Even though it's the weakest of the 3 aero loopers I've ridden, it's still a decent ride. It has a lot of historic value to it. Plus, you can get some pretty good hang time on the corkscrews. While I wouldn't say the hang time is nearly as good as on Vortex at Kings Island, it's still decent hang time. Plus, the ride isn't that rough. I think people need to stop hating on these aero loopers. At the number 11 spot, we have Wicked Twister, the park's Intamin impulse coaster. This ride is pretty short. I do like its launches, but the spikes are just okay. I would say that this ride is smooth, unlike what most people say. I don't really have anything else to say about this coaster. I wouldn't be surprised if this coaster gets removed soon, though. At the number 10 spot, we have Iron Dragon, the park's Aerodynamic suspended coaster. This is another coaster I consider underrated. The first half isn't very thrilling, so I wasn't expecting to like this coaster. The second half, however, is quite good. It's very fun how it goes over the foggy water. It's pretty fun. Plus, the coaster is very smooth and it's a long ride. This is another coaster that everyone in the family will enjoy. At the number 9 spot, we have Rugaru, the park's B&M floorless coaster. This coaster used to be a stand-up coaster called Mantis. They converted it to a floorless coaster in 2015. This ride is actually pretty fun. It isn't too rough and it's fairly intense. This coaster is certainly better than Gatekeeper and Valor, but still gets beat up by a B&M later on this list. At the number 8 spot, we have Gemini, the park's Aerodynamics hybrid dueling coaster. This ride is pretty fun. It has decent airtime and is actually decently intense. This is an underlooked coaster at the park. It is my second favorite Aerodynamics coaster at the park. At the number 7 spot, we have a very controversial pick, Millennium Force, the park's Intamin Giga Coaster. I'm sorry, Millennium Force, man, but this ride is definitely overrated in my opinion. Some of you were wondering why this wasn't on my top 25 that I've ridden list. I may do a full review on this coaster in the future. Let me just say that the drop wasn't nearly as good as I was expecting, and I wasn't a very big fan of its layout. It's still a Giga Coaster, so I can't really rank it any lower, but yeah, don't expect this to be your number 1 at the park like some people say. At the number 6 spot, we have Blue Streak, the park's PTC wooden coaster. This is the oldest coaster at the park. You may be wondering, how is this better than Millennium Force? Well, let me just say this coaster is very fun and it also has some good airtime. I love the vintage wooden roughness on this coaster. So yeah, Blue Streak is definitely an underlooked coaster at the park and a coaster that everyone in the family will enjoy. At the number 5 spot, we have Raptor, the park's B&M invert. I'm sorry, Mr. Roller Coasters, but this coaster is amazing. It's extremely intense and very fun. It's also very smooth besides that final transition. This ride is just underrated and is very intense. It's a coaster that you will love if you love old B&M inverts like me. At the number 4 spot, we have Top Thrill Dragster, the park's Intamin Strata coaster. This ride is just pure insanity. The launch is absolutely amazing. It's definitely my favorite launch I've experienced. The top hat is also good, but yeah, this coaster is short. Very short. It is only 17 seconds long. I prefer Storm Runner at Hershey Park due to the extra elements. But yeah, this coaster is still amazing, and if you love launch coasters, you will absolutely love this coaster. I haven't ridden King Ka at Six Flags Great Adventure, but I feel like this coaster is better due to the restraints. At the number 3 spot, we have Magnum XL 200, the park's aerodynamics hypercoaster. This is the most historic coaster at the park. It was the first coaster over 200 feet, and was really the coaster that made parks build bigger and better attractions. This ride is just fantastic. It has great airtime and is quite intense. And let me just say that it's in the best location of the park. It's right on the beach and it's just great. You get a fantastic view of Lake Erie. This ride is quite rough and painful, but that adds to the insanity of this coaster. So yeah, Magnum XL 200 is a great hypercoaster and is better than the 2 B&M hypers that I've ridden. At the number 2 spot, we have Maverick, the park's Intamin Blitz coaster. This coaster is very intense. It has a great second launch. This coaster is also in a great location. Plus, it has my favorite first drop at the park, which is a very unpopular opinion. So yeah, Maverick is a great coaster. I was close to putting Magnum above it, but I do think Maverick beats it out overall. Plus, this is the coaster where some coins flew out of some GP woman's pocket and hit my sister. That was pretty funny. And finally, at number 1, we have Steele Vengeance, the park's RMC Hyper Hybrid coaster. When this coaster opened, about 99% of enthusiasts called it the best coaster in the world. Sadly, this ride has slowed down quite a bit, and now many people, me included, don't consider it a top 10 coaster in the world anymore. However, this ride is still great. The Flowjector airtime is great, plus the lead up into the mid-course brake run is easily my favorite moment of the ride, and is one of my favorite airtime moments ever. So yeah, Steele Vengeance at Cedar Point is overrated, but it's still a great coaster and one I would recommend if you love Flowjector airtime. And there we have it, my Cedar Point coaster rankings. This video was actually quite difficult to make because I was tempted to swap some spots around. Cedar Point is a great park, and it's a park every coaster enthusiast should visit at some point. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm currently working on a poll to determine what my next review should be. The poll is, what coaster do you want me to review next? Steele Vengeance, Steel Curtain, or The Voyage? Currently, The Voyage is winning by 4 votes. Get out there and vote. For now, Alpengeist Fan 08, out.